Hi everyone, today I want to troubleshoot the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I love this little guy here. This sits on my desk. I love that it's so small, and I do have the big one, but I think I use this one a lot because I can easily, it sits right above with my ink pads on top of my ink pad holder, and I can just grab it and I don't have to move, whereas my larger one sits across on a different wall with all the accessories and things like that, and this is just so convenient. So I love it. I have two. I have one on my desk and one I keep in the space that I do classes, and that way I don't have to lug it, pack up my car and take it to, I rent a room to do classes at a local church. So anyway, I really like it, so I bought two, and I think that it's a great investment, but it is different than the bigger one in that there are some little kinks, and so I wanted to point them out because I want you to love it as much as I do. So here's the little guy, and it comes with your plates here, and oops, one more. And as you can see, I use it a ton, and you've got two cutting plates. Those are the clear ones. The number one is your base plate, and that one you pretty much always use. And then depending upon what you're doing, you're going to switch between the 2 and the 3. So you've got the 2s, those are for your cutting. And then you've got your 3, which is for embossing. Okay, this is for standard embossing, and so we're going to look at what else you can do. So I wanted to tell you a couple things. Some people have noticed when running it through, actually let's grab something to cut. Might as well cut something while we're talking. Right, this is on my desk. What is this? Cottage flowers. Okay. And some scrap paper. Actually, I've got some gold on my desk. Let's use that. It's got a little line through it, so it's a little messed up. Okay, so I'm going to grab these and I'm going to place them. Now sometimes if it's a stamped image and I want to line it up with a stamped image, I'll use a little piece of washi tape or a post-it note to kind of hold them in place. But these are just solid images, nothing stamped, so I'm not worried about it. And then I'm going to, where did I put my top plate? There it is. I'm going to put it on top. Now my mind wants to line these up and get a nice hard edge here, and then I think to myself, it's perfect, right? But in reality, for some reason, it kind of stops it from going through. It's like it's hitting a brick wall, so it wants them to be slightly off. So just offset, make sure they're not at a blunt end, make sure they're slightly off, and then crank it through and it'll go through. Sometimes when it gets to the die, I have to kind of give it a little more pressure, but then it'll go through like that. And then I've got my dies. Okay, but had I gone through with them, here, let's do another one. And sometimes it works, so I might be showing you something and then it's going to work. But if I had lined them all up and made it all a smooth end like that, it just kind of doesn't want to go through. Now I can get it through, but I've used this a million times. So anyway, it's easier if you just slightly space them, and it doesn't even really matter that much if this one's ahead or that one's ahead. You know, it doesn't matter. You don't have to say, well, this one's in front. It doesn't really matter, just so long as it's not hitting that hard edge right at the beginning when you're trying to crank it through. Okay, so that's cutting. Now, as you can see, my plates, I use them a ton, and so you do every once in a while have to replace your plates, and I kind of use them until it becomes frustrating to use. I have a backup set of plates sitting in my house I bought months ago, keeping the idea that I think I bought it during Celebration, and I keep thinking one of these days I'm going to need to open them up and use them, and yet I still haven't. I keep finding that I'm not having a hard time cutting these. All these little things pop out still, and so I haven't busted them out yet. I know I will have to eventually if I get something super detailed. In fact, let's do something super detailed. Okay, I do want to point out, let's see, here it is, that in the catalog it tells you what dies will work with the mini, and you'll notice that it's a ton. So if I open up to this page here, for example, this is I think the first set of dies. Okay, the first page of dies, you'll notice that every single one works with the mini. And I'll turn the page and every single one but one works with the mini. Isn't that amazing? And here, all of them, all but one. So if a lot of dies work with the mini. Here we got all but two. So I think it's pretty amazing how much you can get out of this. And sometimes they say something doesn't work with the mini. For example, this waves dies. And I thought, why doesn't it work with the mini? And I think it's just because the largest one, because it's skinnier than this, but it's long. So I think it's just because it's not going to work the way they intended to do the image. I'm not sure. In fact, let me get the waves one because now I'm curious. Okay, here it is. Is it too big? That's the biggest one. See, it'll still fit. So sometimes it says that it won't work with the mini, but really read the sizes of the dies. It tells you the sizes of the dies. The largest die is 5.5 by 2 1/4. So the platform is just about 3 inches. I think it's slightly over 3.5 inches. You don't want things going all the way to that edge though. So that said 2.5. So I think maybe in their mind that waves always go horizontally, and so they were thinking that it had to go this way. But if you're cutting out a shape to glue onto something, it doesn't matter. So take a look at that description, because I think this one is just fine in the mini. And I thought that because I'm like, I know I used it in the mini, because I didn't bother looking at the icons. I just grabbed it and was using it, and I used the mini. So there are some, like this one, the largest die is 4 by 5 1/4. No way that's going in the mini. Okay, but that one is. And there was another one that I was just using the other day that also said it didn't go on the mini. But, you know, like I said, I didn't look at that when I grabbed it. I just grabbed it. And it's this from the holiday mini, and I was cutting it. And yes, it goes all the way to the edge. I mean, it really does. But, and this is a super detailed die. So I'm going to, and again, my plates are super old. I think they're probably the original plates. All right, so I'm going to put it on there. And so when that happens, I am going to crank it all the way. By what happens, I mean when I'm using something very detailed. And yes, I do have a harder time cranking it because it is so detailed. I'm going to go all the way, and then I'm going to come all the way back. And then before I even pop it out of the die, I'm going to look at it. Oops, I was trying to hold it in place, but that didn't happen. I'm usually going to turn it over, and I can usually tell if something hasn't cut out all the way, like here in the middle. And my plates are pretty bowed, you can see. So sometimes I have to tape things down just because of how bowed it is. All right, so you can see I didn't get the middle. So I'm just going to do it again. Now that doesn't always work. You have to be really good at lining these things up and make sure that it's really, and if you kind of shift it, you can tell if the pieces are back in their little grooves, so you know you've got it. And then let's just cut it again. So I might be at the point where I need to get new plates. So I'm going to go all the way there and all the way back. And another thing you can do, if for some reason there's like an area, one little area, because my plates are so bowed, you can take something as thin as a Post-it note. I put the sticky side forward just because it'll go in smoother. And then I'll go over it one more time. Something that thin just needs that little extra push. There we go. Okay. Okay, let's see how we did. Okay, I can tell just looking at it, I got all my cuts. So these are going to just fall out. So there we go. Just going back and forth a couple times. And that little post-it note for that one area where my plate is so bowed, because you always use, look how bowed these are. I'm telling you, I use it all the time. Love it. Okay. Yeah, I'll just deal with this later. Such a pretty die. This is from the mini catalog, the winter mini, and it's called, Fond of Autumn is the stamp set, but what are the dies called? Autumn Bouquet. Love that stamp set and dies. Okay, so I'll make something with those dies later on, and you can probably find it on my channel or my Facebook page or somewhere. Pinterest. Alright, so now let's use those embossing folders. Okay, so I have my number 1. Now there's 2 different kinds of embossing folders. You've got a 3D embossing folder, and you've also got, I thought I had one out, so let me see. I've got all these things out now. Here it is. This one's called Charming Landscapes, and it's got little mountains, which I thought would be cute with the Yeti. Also, there's a few reindeer ones and all kinds of cute stamp sets in the holidays. So this one, and this one's kind of got like a gingerbread feel, and I like that one too. It's a little house and trees. Anyway, so really cute, and this is in the winter mini. This is in the annual. This is called Wintry 3D. So one is a 3D, one is not. So how do you do that? Okay. So let's do the 3D first. So the 3D one, if you don't have it labeled anymore, sometimes you can take a Sharpie and write 3D on it so that you know this is a 3D one. Because once you've taken it off this packaging, you might lose it. Now I usually slip them back in my packaging and put it in a little bin. But if you've lost this packaging, you can write with a little post-it. You can also tell just by looking at it that this one is thicker. So let's put them next to each other. See how much thicker that is. I can feel it in my hand too. Okay, so I'm gonna use some shaded spruce scrap that was on my desk. And I want to play around with the thought that's in my head of adding some white, and I know I have a white sponge around here somewhere. And this way you'll see it better. So I'm going to stick some white ink on the folder. Now, do I want it on the side that's bumpy or on the side that's going in? I think I want it on the bumpy side, which will then make it press in. We'll see. Anyway, let's put it here and close it up. Okay, so we got that. Now we need our base plate, and then we need, is it the 3 or 4? 3 is, I think I need the 4. Okay, now it's going to say on here, use with 3D embossing folder. So we're going to use the 4, and here we go. Okay. And I think I should have put the snow on the bumpy side. So anyway, I just thought you'd see it better. So this is the 3D embossing folder. I'm going to try that again with the bumpy side. And then for the non-3D one, we're going to use 3. So this says standard embossing folders. Now you're still going to use your base plate. That's kind of your always go-to. And then we're going to do what I do with my little mountains. I wanted to use those mountains. Let's put some white on this one. How about that? Oh, I want it on that side again. I keep putting it on the wrong side. You know what? That's okay. We're going to use the white after the fact instead of before. Okay, let's go through with the 3. Alright, so now we've got on the wrong side again. I don't know where my brain is today, but there is the standard embossed image, so it's really cute, isn't it? Anyway, so the problem with using it is making sure you have the right plates. Use Post-it note or a sticky note if you need to keep something in place on a stamped image, and not having all those plates butted up against when you're putting it through the machine. Also, make sure you go hinge side first when running it through. That way the the folder is on it, where it needs to be. When it closes, doesn't accidentally somehow, buckle like this, and then your images don't line up. So you always want to go hinge side first. And you can get some fun detail after the fact. See, I'm going to highlight my stars in the sky instead of beforehand. This way works much better. So that I've got some fun stars in the sky. Where are my wintry 3D. This is a fun one. So this is in the annual. This one's in the holiday. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out. And again, you can look for the icon in the catalog, but also read the sizes on the dies. And then if you haven't seen or noticed, there are some bundles. So if you do not have one of our die cut machines, you can get a bundle like this mini one. It's a little bundle here, and you save a little bit with the Sending Smiles bundle, or the Stylish Shapes bundle for the mini, or then the bigger one, you got that. So anyway, and then it's got one style number, and that way you've got everything you need for this style number right there. And same with this one, everything you need for one item number, one price for all of it. Anyway, just a thought if you were thinking about getting one of these machines and you don't already have one. So, I love the little mini. Yes, there are some bigger folders and things that don't work with the mini, but you can do a lot with the mini. So it's still really good, or it's even nice to add to your collection to have something easier on hand, or if you're a demonstrator and you do classes, it's so nice to have an extra machine so that you don't have as much people waiting in line to use the big machine. Anyway, I really like it, and I want you to like it too. So I thought I'd do this little video. Hope that it was helpful for you, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'm happy to discuss all things Stampy all the time. Thanks for watching. Bye.